Let's start on slide 3. So last time we talked about some characteristics, comparisons of quantitative and qualitative research. Let's start by talking about coding. Well, just a quick point. You'll notice, I may have mentioned this before, I don't recall, but my screencasts are always 10 minutes or less because the software I use only lets me record in 10-minute intervals. So that's why it's 10 minutes or less. So coding, if I'm doing a quantitative survey or experiment, whatever it is. Let's talk about surveys. So I develop a Likert scale. I develop a 1 to 10 scale. And so if it's a Likert scale, I have my statement, and above the statement is my scale. And let's say that I code a strongly agree as 1, agree as 2, and so on down to 5, strongly disagree. Every single person who circles strongly disagree, I'm coding as a 5. That's it. Simple, cut, dry, boom, end of story. Everyone here who circles a number 6 on my 1 to 10 scale is coded as a 6. Now, you have to know what a 6 means. You have to know what a 5 means. You have to know what the numbers mean. But the coding is always the same in quantitative. In qualitative research, things are a bit different. Coding is an ongoing process. Let's say I want to do interviews or observations about job issues. And so I want to know what makes people happy on their job. So I'm going to interview them, let's say. I'm going to look for the patterns in their responses. So let's say the first couple of people I interview talk about how it's money. So for the first, say, 3 people I interview, they talk about how the more money they make, the happier they are. Well, instead of coding happiness as a number like I did back here, for example, I'm now coding happiness as more money. So coding in qualitative methods isn't tying a number into an answer, it's tying a word or a phrase into some concept. So the first few people talk about how the more money they make, the happier they are at work. Great. But then I interview some more people, and they talk about coworkers or 4-day work weeks or longer vacation, maternity, paternity leave, whatever it is. So I'm continually updating how I'm coding happiness. In other words, I'm continually updating what I mean or what the people mean by talking about happiness at work. It's an ongoing process. It deals with money, okay, but also deals with work relationships, with vacation, with promotions, with schedules. So coding is an ongoing process, and you look for this coding or patterns of what people say as you go along doing the interviews, during the interview process. A little bit of theory now, qualitative methods. So I need to talk a little bit about theory here. Herbert Blumer is your guy. And back now, okay, qualitative methods existed before the 60s. I'm not saying that. But Herbert Blumer helped develop really good sound methods regarding how qualitative research should be done. And so back in the 60s, he was a symbolic interactionist. Back in the 60s, he used this theory that, again, symbolic interactionism existed prior to the 60s, but he used this theory to help really set some good guidelines regarding how qualitative researchers think research should be done. So what I want to do is first talk about the theory and then talk about how these principles of this theory apply to doing qualitative research. So here we go. Here's some terms I want to talk to you about. Social construction of reality. What if I said to you, let's try this. Okay, when you think of dinner time, what do you think of? And so, if we were in a class, we'd be talking, you'd be answering. So just think about that. What does dinner time mean to you? Well, maybe for some of you, it's a time to eat food. For others, maybe it's a specific time, 5 p.m., 8 p.m. Maybe for others of you, it's just whenever you're hungry. Maybe for some of you, it's getting lectured. Who knows? The point is, your understanding, the meaning you attach to this thing called dinner time is based on your interactions. And so this phrase here, social construction of reality, means whatever we think of as real is constructed based on our social interactions. So if I said, when you think about dating or pets or health, what do you think of? Well, you're going to think of the things you think of, in large part because of your past interactions. Role taking, role making, strain and conflict. Role taking is a term in the theory that is used to try and see things from another person's viewpoint. So when you role take, you try and put yourself in that person's shoes. So if a friend, a colleague, whomever does something that bugs you, you certainly could get mad. But if you want to understand why he or she did that, then you role take, meaning step outside of your views of reality and try and see things why they did it. I remember one time where my son and my daughter were arguing, and I thought that my son was being pretty rude to his sister. And so I got mad at him and scolded him, et cetera, et cetera. But afterwards, I realized through talking to my daughter and my wife that what my son was saying was not anything rude. I misinterpreted it. I did not role take. I acted based on my understanding of the situation without trying to see things from his viewpoint. So I apologized and life went on. Let's see, role making. Role making is trying to find your niche. Niche. Trying to find your niche. Roles are what you do. So as a student, what do? You go to class, you take notes, you do homework and such. Role making is trying to figure out how you can best do what you're supposed to do. So for example, one time I asked my class how they prepare for exams. And one student said, I'll put on my pajamas. I was wondering if she misunderstood me, so I had asked her to explain. She said, I don't like studying in the library. I like studying at home. So when I'm at home, if I put my pajamas on, that forces me to stay home. At least for her, it did. So by putting on her pajamas, because if she wanted to go out after putting on her pajamas, she had to get changed. And she said, I don't feel like doing that. So putting on my pajamas, she said, makes me stay home. I like studying at home, so putting on my pajamas makes me stay home. I stay home, I study. She got an A in the class. Now, could any of you get an A in the class without studying at home in your pajamas? Of course. How are you going to make the role? What are you going to do to most effectively and efficiently do what you're supposed to do? That's role making. Role strain is having too much to do for one social position. A social position is what you are, like a student, like a friend, like a parent, like a teacher, like an employee. Role strain is too much to do for one social position. Like if I said, what do you call it when you have 10 papers, 4 quizzes, and 8 exams same week? That's role strain. That all comes under the heading of student. Role conflict is having problems in different areas of life, different positions, different social positions. So if you have tests to do and if you have family issues and maybe you have to work X number of hours a week. Role strain is having too much to do for different social positions. Role strain, too much to do for one social position. Subjectivity is trying to figure out how you see things and how other people see things. You're trying to make sense of what other people do. You're trying to, similar with role taking, trying to see things from their point of view. But also, you're trying to realize that life does not revolve around you. In symbolic interactionism, there's a discussion of the self. And part of discussion of the self is there's one part called the I, just the letter I, that's the part of you that says you feel like you're the central thing around whom interaction revolves. And then the other part of the self is the me, M-E. That's the part of yourself that you gain through social interaction and that you learn that there are rules and issues that apply to all of us. So like if you're playing Monopoly, someone who is I dominant, someone's very self-centered, is going to get mad rolling 3 doubles in a row because that means you go to jail. The person who has a me that's developed understands, okay, I'm going to jail for this game, but these rules also apply to everyone else. So subjectivity is realizing that we need to make sure we don't always impose our views of reality on other people. They may have their experiences which help them see things from a different point of view. So I'm going to pause here, but what we're going to lead into the next set of slides is that using these principles of symbolic interactionism, we're going to talk about how this has an impact in terms of how you do research. Let's see. Nope, not what I wanted. Sorry. Let's try it again.